Gentlemen, many of you know him, Mr. Boniface Mwangi. Please give it up for him. I need a cheer like that when I come out next time, guys. You hear me? I hope you hear me. But Mr. Boniface Mwangi, karibu sana. It's good to have you here.
Asante. Hello, fearless people. I'm standing between you and lunch, so be kind.
Is this the most fearless human being you know? Now, for those who are visitors and don't know who Boniface Mwangi is Mwangi is it right to call you a political activist? Is that the right term? You've been an activist. We've known you in the activist space in this nation for a long time. You're one of the most courageous and fearless people who have stood up against injustice pretty much everywhere, whether it's in, whether it's schools, whether it's land, whatever it is. You've been there. You run Power 254, and he's now running for office, aren't you? You're running for Starehe MP. Salimia watu. Say hello to the people.
Yes, I am. Thank you for the kind remarks. My name is Boniface Mwangi. I'm a fearless influencer. I'm a Mavunite. And I love the Lord. And I'm happy to be here. I'm an activist. And I prefer calling myself an active citizen. I speak out against injustice, corruption, impunity, land grabbing, and other things. Absolutely.
Now, you're well known for activism in this nation over the past, I don't even know how many years, but for many years in this nation, you've been known for your activism. I'd love to know, where did all this start?
So many things. I grew up under Moi regime where speaking out was actually a bad thing.
So the Moi regime, for those who don't know, that's our previous...
He was a dictator for 24 years.
Previous president. Previous president. Excuse me.
So this man, during that time, if you spoke against anything, you'd be arrested, tortured, jailed if you're lucky, and the unlucky ones got killed. So growing up, my mother would tell me, the coward goes home to his mother.
The coward?
Goes home to his mother or her mother, or his mother rather. That's referring to myself. And so I grew up in that environment of fear, but I had a problem with injustice. I was expelled from school at the age of 14 for speaking out against injustice, and that began like my journey to activism. But I think the turning point in my life came about 2007. We had elections in this country, and the election outcome was violently disputed by President Kibaki, and Raila Odinga was running against Kibaki. And what followed was about 2 months of mayhem, violence, killing, displacement. A lot of bad things happened. And so I was very psychologically affected from the violence. I stopped going to church, I stopped praying. I was out in the streets just saying, what do I do? And I decided to actually protest against Kibaki's government. And that gave birth to what I'm doing today. I said, I must stand up against what really happened in 2007 and become an educator and tell people you can't fight along tribal lines. But along the way, I realized actually there's more to that. Yes, we might speak about tribalism, but there's corruption, there's land grabbing, there's impunity every single day. And so I decided to change my job. I quit my job completely. I don't even have like a real job. And said, I'll be speaking about these things every single day. So I said, I'm going to live my life to make a difference every single day. And I can go back to my grandfather. He was a freedom fighter, and he was in jail for about 6 years. And my grandmother was a Momo fighter. And when they fought for the freedom of this country, they did not enjoy the fruits of the freedom. They came back, the home guards had taken over, the land was gone, and they were very bitter. And when I was growing up, they said, you don't have to fight for anything because you're going to lose at the end of the day. And so I live my life to say that you can still fight and be alive. You can resist and enjoy those fruits, because if you don't do it, our kids will be forced to do it. And our kids will come and ask you, Mommy, Daddy, where were you when they grabbed Uhuru Park or Karura Forest? Where were you when they elected a drug dealer or a pedophile or a criminal? Where were you? Why didn't you do anything? So you don't resist because you're going to win. You resist because resistance is the only righteous thing to do. You stand up not because you're going to win today. You stand up to lay a foundation for the next generation. So Wangari Maathai fought for Uhuru Park and Karura Forest. And we must continue that fight to ensure that it doesn't go in our generation. So you fight, it's a marathon. And when you reach your end, you pass on the baton to the next generation. So what you're doing today will affect our kids and grandkids. If we reclaim back our country from tribalism and bad governance and corruption, it means that our kids will have an easier fight. If the guys did not fight in the 80s and 90s to get more out of power and to end one-party rule, we'll be fighting that fight today. So they fought. Now we have multi-party in Kenya. Now we have to fight for integrity in our leaders. And that means that you continue and you stand up. I know most of us are middle class, living good life. You have a car loan to pay. You have a house mortgage and all other things. But you must stand up, because the time is going to come that you can't afford to pay your mortgage, or you can't afford to service that car, and you're not safe anymore. So standing up is a righteous thing to do. When evil happens in a silent, you're a sinner. When you pray about injustice and do nothing about it, you're canceling your prayers. So pray. It's very good to pray, but walk your prayer every day.
Bonnie, I want to ask you. You know, I believe you. Give it up for him. Very, very passionate about the work that he does. You know, I think many people believe you. And I think many people feel the way you do when they see injustice, especially political injustice. Many people see it and agree. But not many people put up their hands to do anything. Yet you, time and time again, have put yourself kind of like in the firing squad. You know, before the firing squad, oftentimes, your life could have been taken at different times. Is this thing worth it? Is it worth? I mean, you've got a wife, you've got kids, and I know your family. When you look at it, is the sacrifice worth it? Why?
It's worth every minute. So the Lord put a burden in my heart to speak out. And if I don't speak, I get into trouble. I feel like I can't stay silent. There's a time my life was under threat, 2014, and I quit activism for about 10 months. I was very miserable. I was just there. So everyone has a calling, and my calling is actually to fight for a better Kenya. And that's my calling right now until the day I die. Is it worth it?
Give it up for him.
Yes, it is worth it. You see, my life is a gift from God, and what I do with it is my gift back to God and to society. I don't think any man created me. I don't think any man can kill me without God's permission. Unless I'm walking in unrighteousness and I'm out of God's will, then I'm going to die. But as long as I'm in God's will, I shouldn't fear anything. I'm alive today because of God's will. I ride a motorbike. I came here on a motorbike, and I drive in very crazy roads, and I see bike accidents and people die. I've lost friends on the bike. But I still ride, because even though I ride through these bad Kenyan roads, the Lord is my shepherd. He'll see me through. So even in my walk into politics, which is a very dirty place, it's a very dirty game, people are very corrupt, and people go to parliament and change. How can I change if I have the Lord in my heart? And I don't think that people who get into politics and change are changed by the parliament. I think they're just evil people pretending. And number two, which is very sad, and I want to call out to my Christian brothers and sisters, and this is a challenge to you. Christians are the only ones who kill their own and crucify their own. When a believer falls, you shame them, and you avoid them, and you shun them. Shame on you. The Lord did not do that. Christ walked with the sinners and prayed for the sinners, and they changed their ways. And I think if a believer is falling or making mistakes, you need to speak out and engage them and try and take them back to the way of the Lord. So shaming someone does not make you more righteous. And I tell people, God does not gossip. And this is how I know God does not gossip. If I sin in hiding, God will not expose me. My sins will expose me. So God is not gossiping about me. So instead of gossiping about me, pray for me and walk with me and strengthen me. Help me become accountable so that I do not stray away from those ways. That's the best you can do for me. So condemning someone and doing these things that does not help. So as Christians, they say Kenya is about 72% Christians. But guess what? Kenya is about 99% corruption. So there's more corruption in this country than Christians. That means we're not walking in the path of righteousness. And it's a call to the church to reclaim back our country. We can't be a prayerful nation and we have very corrupt, bad leadership in power. So Christians, you have to reclaim that. Jesus Christ was an activist. His lifestyle, his walk, his message was revolutionary. So every single person in this room should be a revolutionary in your own way. And that means you speak against injustice where you are. You don't have to quit your job. If something's been bad, you do speak about it. As a Christian, and you have a house help, pay them well, treat them well. Say hi to that watchman. Msalimie. So don't come and pray, raise your hands on Sunday, and between Monday and Saturday you live like the devil. That is wrong.
What do I want to ask you? We've known you in this space for the past couple of years. You're now entering the political space. you're vying for a parliamentary role in the coming elections in the next couple of weeks. And why? Why move from one space? Why move from the space that you're in now? Is it going to dilute the work you're doing? Is it going to support the work? What's this platform for?
So I want to be the voice of us in parliament. I want to go to parliament to represent the people of Starehe. I grew up in Starehe, I lived in Starehe. My mother was a hawker. I was a hawker before I became a photographer. And I understand the issues better than anyone else who's vying in Starehe. I want to go and be able to pass legislation to protect those small traders, the informal sector, the border people. Normally when I protest, I go to protest outside parliament. I want to continue the fight and the protest inside parliament. I want when you guys have a motion or a problem, I can stand in parliament and say, this is the problem. I want to be able to speak courage fluently inside parliament. So my vying for political office is not an end to my work. It's a continuation instead of my work inside parliament. So I'm not going to change my ways. I know people think I do have an attitude, and I do have an attitude against corruption and bad leaders. People think I'm arrogant. I'm arrogant towards the corrupt and bad leadership. And we need to have that attitude. We need to actually shun corruption. I was at backstage and someone was telling me that she has a problem that when she goes to speak and empower young people, they give there's a politician who has a very cool beard and very bad ways and bad manners as a role model. I get so upset. And so we need to give Kenyans an example of good leaders in power who are not stealing. I know I'm in church, and I should not name names, but I'll say one thing. We know pastors who have gone to parliament and they have shamed the church. I can assure you, through God's strength and God's will, when I get to parliament, I'll not shame the gospel and I'll not shame the church. I'll become a voice there.
I love it. Give it up for Boni. The one thing I do love, Boni, and I've told you this for years, is I cannot think about someone who is more passionate about this, who has a fire in his belly for this nation, for justice, for the right thing to be done within political and economic circles. So we really do celebrate you, and we really do stand behind you. So give it up for Boni.
Thank you.
We want to invite, just as we close, a lady who is doing an amazing thing in terms of bringing people like Boni into the spotlight, people who are believers into the spotlight in as far as political office is concerned. So ladies and gentlemen, would you help me put your hands together and welcome Paulie Mugore. Just... Give it up for Paulie Mugore. She is the founder and leader of Simama 2017. That's really a political vehicle. Tell us a little bit about the work of Simama 2017.
Thank you, Pastor David. Good afternoon, Fearless. Simama 2017 is an initiative that my husband and I began sometime in last year, in June. And we've been doing two things. The first, which we did between June and just the recently concluded primaries, was to encourage Christians to stand for political office. And since then, we have been now encouraging believers to actually support those who have been brave enough to stand and say they want to make a change in this country.
I love it. Give it up for that. That's amazing. You're trying to get people who are believers to stand for political office and to support others.
Yes.
Let me ask you. I mean, I don't know you as a politician. I don't. Yeah. So where did this come from? Where did Simama come from? How was it birthed?
Okay. For many years I was in business, and but then just before the last elections, I felt the Lord beginning to draw me into the area of politics. And one of the first things He did was to assign me to, so to speak, in one of the presidential campaigns. So I worked, or rather volunteered, for Professor James Olekiapi for about a year. And Professor Olekiapi is a believing Christian, and because of serving in his campaign, I got to know of a lot of other Christians who were standing for election for various positions in the last elections. And one thing that they all spoke about was that they got very minimal support from the church. And so come these elections, I just decided to do something about it. I'll just give you an example. In the last elections, Professor Kiapi, despite us knowing what he stood for, got very few votes. For Senator of Nairobi, I remember I gave Bishop Adoyo. He got just around 11,000 votes. For MP, I gave a friend of mine who we used to go to that same church to, a neighborhood church, and he got very few votes. And then for governor, I gave a gentleman called Joe Mwangi. He was a pastor. He's the only person I saw being interviewed on TV who spoke about bringing biblical values to his position. For the other positions, I could not find a Christian to give my vote. And so I ticked a box, like many of us did, particularly for the MCA position. And so for these elections, we decided we'd do something about that. And we created a platform where all of these candidates who say, I'm a Christian, I want to bring biblical values to my position, can then create their profile there, and the people will know where they're standing and what they stand for.
Polly, what do you look out for when you're putting people on the Simama platform? So I am a Christian. Is that the thing that you say? If I say I'm a Christian and I stand, should I be supported? Is that the critical thing you're looking for?
We look for two things. First, yes, a Christian, a practicing Christian. But the other thing is, you also have to be competent to do the work. So it's not just enough to say I'm a Christian, vote for me. I'm competent because of the following things. And what we are saying is, when somebody stands and says, please vote for me because of my biblical values and because I'm competent, give them a chance. Listen to what they have to say. Don't just give them your vote because they belong to a party that you like or they come from your particular tribe.
I like it. Tell us, just as we wind up, what are some of the tangible things that Simama 2017 is involved in?
Okay, so I mentioned that we began by encouraging Christians to stand. And now we're encouraging believers to support those who have stood. So we have recently launched what we are calling Adopt a Candidate. And I'll give you an example of how we are doing it. I personally belong to two fellowship groups where I live in Langata. And one of them is in a ward called Mogumoine in Langata constituency. So just in the course of doing my work, someone told me about a young man who has been doing a lot in the community, who's a Christian and very competent. He's trained in law, but also a man with a heart for the community and a man who has demonstrated that he's honest and able to do the job. And so my life group invited him for a life group meeting last week. We interacted with him. We asked him all the hard questions about Mogumoine Ward. We've not seen water. What are you going to do about that? And then we listened to him about his background. And at the end of that, we adopted him as a candidate. And what that means is that we are going to support him until he gets to the ballot. Because it's not enough. If you find a candidate...
Yeah.
What we are saying is, if you find a candidate that is worth your vote, it's not enough to just appear at the ballot box. You need to appear with at least 10 others like you, 10 others that you have influenced to know about Boni, for example, or whoever it is you're supporting. Why? Because whoever is his opponent is also mobilizing. And the sad thing, they are most likely mobilizing along tribal lines. Hasn't that been the way it has been?
Absolutely.
So we are saying, find a good candidate, adopt him, and help him to succeed by influencing at least 10 others around you.
Polly, did you mention where can I come across the database of who's running? Where do you have a database?
Yes, we have a website, simama2017.com, and we're also very active on social media, Facebook, Simama2017, and Twitter at Simama2017.
So let me encourage us, Simama2017.com is the website. Please take note of that. You can bookmark that website, go onto that website, and see the wonderful work that Polly and her team are doing. Our time is up, and I really want to just give you an opportunity just to make a closing remark as we wind up. Boni, I didn't mention, in addition to the work that he does, is a CNN Photojournalist of the Year winner, 2008, 9, 10. Oh my goodness, 2008, 2009, 2010. Photo journal. Give it up for him. He's got this amazing book. I got a copy of it. It's called Boniface Mwangi Unbounded. It tells his story. Tell us about the book, and then you can give us your parting shot. And then, Polly, maybe you can do the same as well. Tell us about the book, and then give us your parting shot. And then.
So the book is about modern-day Kenya through my eyes, from my grandparents who are freedom fighters, and my upbringing, my photography, award-winning work, and my post-photography life. My closing remark is that fears of the devil, and you should not be afraid, because they'll just kill the body, but the spirit goes back to the Lord. So do not be afraid to stand up and speak the truth. My call to all of you that you may the Lord give you the strength and the wisdom to speak courage fluently, and may the Lord give you courage to stand up when things go wrong. May we stand in the gap for those people who are not believers, so that they may become believers. And may you be the change that you want to see in this country. So when you go home, look the man and the woman in the mirror and say, I'll be the change for Kenya and for my kids. I love you guys, and may God bless you.
Thank you so much. Polly?
What I'd say in closing is that under the new constitution, the things that bother us in our everyday lives, like what I mentioned, water, security in our estates, lighting, and so on, are taken care of at the ward level by the people we elect called MCAs, and also at MP level, I believe. And so what I would just plead is this. Those who are standing for MCA and MP are people you can find. They are approachable people. They are near you. Please find someone that you can support. Don't just tick a box, because this is what has caused the problems that we have, especially in our county assemblies. Find someone worth your vote, and when you do that, support them up to the time that they get to the ballot.
Thank you so much. I want to give it up.
I'll be outside signing the books and taking your donations.
Oh, fantastic. So that's fine. He's going to be available afterwards outside with the book as well, and you can have conversations about his run for political office as well. So thank you so much. I really want to appreciate the both of you and all those that we've interviewed today for A-Star and Dr. Kinoti as well. I hope the thing that you're seeing as we engage with all these people is this. Is that for every single person is here, if you look across the room, there's a thing that God has designed you to be a solution provider for. Do you hear me? There's a thing for every single person. If you take a look across the room, that God has created you to be a solution provider for. That's what it means to be the salt and the light. And our hope, even as we have these conversations, is that it will spark something inside of us, that as we exit this place, as we leave, we'll say, Lord, I'm going to be salt. Lord, I'm going to be light wherever I'm going to be. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up one more time for Polly and Bonnie and for all those that we've interviewed today. Thank you so much.
Test one.
Yes, thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
We're back. Please, another hand for Bonnie and Mugore. And of course,